Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am super excited to be welcoming you back to another solo episode. And I want to start by saying Merry Christmas. If you're listening on the day that the podcast has come out, it is Christmas Eve. And today I want to talk about something that has been coming up lately a lot, both for myself in my own reflections, but also in conversation with women that I coach and friends and business groups. This just seems to be something that's coming up a lot at the moment. And I just wanted to spend some time talking about it with you guys. So I guess it kind of boils down to this idea that healing is actually a mindset. So it's a choice of how we go through. So there's this idea that if you just think positively, stay grateful, manifest harder, you'll finally get all the things that you want. And I don't really think that that is 100% true. I do think that positivity and gratitude and manifestation and positively focusing your mind all have their place 100%. But what I have been kind of talking to people about quite a lot recently is this idea that healing isn't just about your mindset. It's about an actual reconnection. It's about an actual refinding of yourself. And I think that reconnection is what we need to focus on more. So I don't think that you can actually think your way into healing. I think that you have to feel your way into healing. And today I just wanted to talk you through what that actually looks like in real life, what's helped me, what I've seen in other women, the conversations that I've been having, and how you can start to reconnect with yourself as well to just realign. I think that's just a really important thing. So yeah, let's jump straight in. I've got so many things that I want to talk about on this topic, but let's just jump straight in. So a few years ago, not even a few years ago, more than that, probably 5, 7 years ago, my default would have been just to tell you, I'm fine. I'm fine. If you asked me how I was, I'm fine. If you asked me if I needed anything, I would say no, I'm fine. It was just this real pushback of I'm fine. And I had so many things at that time. I had started my business. I had routines in place. I had, all of my goals and to-do lists, and I was meditating, and I was starting this journey of healing massively, and everything that was meant to make me feel good and make me feel successful and make me feel grounded and make me feel balanced and routined and feel good about myself actually inside just made me feel really disconnected. And I would constantly feel like there was something wrong with me because I was doing all of these things that people said that I should be doing, but actually it just wasn't working. It just wasn't helping. And what I started to realize is actually I wasn't feeling any of my emotions. I was just managing them at a distance. I was just putting them in a box and being yeah, you stay over there. We're not dealing with that today. So I wasn't actually living like a full expression of what that should look like because I was never letting myself like be truly where I was. I was never letting myself feel my emotions. I was never letting myself like engage with life itself. And I had this really like profound moment earlier this year, where I realized that actually like I wasn't living, like I hadn't spent this past couple of years like truly living. Like I was getting closer and closer and closer to what that meant, but I wasn't actually truly living. I was performing this idea of being fine. Like I was performing what everyone would expect fine to look like. I was performing what everyone thought success would look like. I was basically just performing life over everything else. And the more that I tried to stay in control of the situation, the more that I actually lost that connection with who I really was underneath. So I was getting more and more disconnected by trying to pretend like everything was okay. And this was this was a really huge moment of realization for me because I spent so long thinking that I must be broken. And what I started to realize is that I actually am not broken. I am actually just really disconnected from my soul, from my truth, from the like uniqueness that makes me me. And that inner blueprint is meant to guide how I live, how I lead, how I create. And I was cutting myself off from a large part of it. Now, if I go back 7 years, I was cutting myself off from all of it. Like there was no connection. If I go back 5 years, there was more of a connection, but again, not massively. If I go back 2 years to when I became a yoga teacher and I actually did my 200 hours, like that built a connection that was so much stronger again, like so much more aligned. But actually, it's only in this past, like going to the UK, doing 4 months away from home, really kind of settling into what is the life that I want to live. How do I want to show up? Like reassessing these boundaries that I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, like this is where I want to be. And like now that I'm home, like reassessing all of my shadow, like reassessing all of the things that a lot of people will just push away. And actually, like, this is the work that it actually takes to realign. Like, it's not about just going through and, doing another mindset thing or doing another meditation. Like, yes, those things are all important, but actually building, and I guess like this is where and like the inspiration of Soul Code like originally came from and why I feel so called to run it again like this January because so much has shifted in who I am as a person and how I can help people. And Soul Code is literally the framework that I used to go through and heal myself. And like I'll talk a bit more about that and what that looked like. But like I think that this is the thing when you start to shift away from what healing should look like and what everyone else expects it to look like. And you look at it just like really practically. I think there's like three main things that you should be focusing on. So, yeah, let's get like super practical for a second. And if you are wrapping up a year of listening to the podcast and you've been with us all this time, like I just want to say thank you. It's massive. I'm so grateful. And if you have left a review for the podcast or shared the podcast or, dropped me a message to say that something really resonated or dropped a message to one of our guests, like I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. And this is literally like a combination of all of these things that we're going to like pull together into like three really practical action, like movement, like how you do this. So the first one is this idea of awareness before action. So you can't change something that you're not aware of. You can't move forward and shift your way of being in the world if you're not aware of how you're being in the world. So when something triggers you, before you try and fix it or before you get cross with yourself for existing in that way, or before you lash out and behave in the way that you don't want to behave, you have to just pause, like literally stop. Can we just take a deep breath and can we just name what it is we're feeling, what is actually going on? So something, as I said, that I really struggled with was this idea of feelings. I was like, feelings are really big, they're really like messy, they're really hard, like I don't want to feel them, so I'm just gonna not, basically. I'm just gonna not do all of that. And what I realized as I was going through this process is by not feeling any of the things that I was feeling, by not going through any of these, like sorting through any of this stuff, I found it really difficult to actually connect with why I was feeling it. And if you've got no awareness over something, it becomes really difficult to do something about it. So you could literally stop for 30 seconds and say to yourself, what am I feeling? I feel angry, I feel anxious, I feel sad. It's like 30 seconds of awareness that just like interrupts the old programming. And this is not to like shame yourself for like, oh, I shouldn't feel this, because you're allowed to feel whatever you want. The key is how you act off the back of it. So when I think back to like the first times that I started to recognize this and do something with this was when I actively accepted the fact that I had depression. And I basically said, I don't want to take medication. I want to deal with this myself. Like, I know that I can realign my body. I know, like, I'm connected enough. And obviously, some people need to take medication. That's absolutely fine. I've got nothing against that. But for me, it just didn't feel like the route. So, what I started to realize is like when I feel a certain way, I need to do certain things. So, when I felt really disconnected or really angry or really anxious or any of the what the world would deem negative emotions, I actually needed to go and kick my endorphins and make myself feel better. So, what I started to do was run, and that worked really well for me. But it wasn't the whole answer. Like, yes, I could use it in the moment to regulate my cortisol, my stress levels being really high, and I could kick in endorphins and they kind of balance themselves out. And for the short term, that worked quite well. But in those moments, like I would want to not go running. Like I would wake up and it would be so hard. And I wouldn't want to go out. I wouldn't want to go running. I mean, I say running, I was like run walking, barely running. But like, I didn't want to move because everything in me was like kind of fighting that. And I had to really look at like, what is this awareness around why is my body fighting this? Like, what is it think's going to go wrong? Now, if I jump to now, where we are in 2025, as we're wrapping up the year, I've just had another iteration of this. So I've been in the UK for 4 months. I've come back and I have had things come up for me where I am able to re-look at like what are these shadows that are showing up for me? What are these um patterns that I'm like reliving, and why am I living in them? And it's like, it's really interesting when you start to have that level of awareness. I'm rereading a book that I read back in, I think it was 2022, and it's all about like your shadow self. And the first time I read it, I was like, oh, I don't really know. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, maybe there's some stuff. Like, I was really like teetering around the edges because you see, looking at your shadow self and like why these things happen can be really triggering, like in itself. This time, I literally opened the book, and within the first like 5 pages, I was like, oh, yeah, that's the pattern. I can see it. I need to do something about this, and I need to work through this. And it's so incredible, like the level of awareness that you can build as you continue to connect to your body and say, what is causing this? How is this happening? Why is this happening? Like, why am I feeling this? And it's a really, really like amazing thing. Now, as I said, I started running, and that was a real short-term regulator. But actually, what I noticed, and this is number two, is we have to be able to regulate our nervous system on a daily basis. So your body stores emotions regardless, like your body stores emotions all of the time. And basically, your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. So whether this is childhood trauma that's stored, whether this is traumatic events that are stored, whatever it is that is sort of hanging out, you have this memory trapped into your body because it is your protection system. So if you feel anxious or overwhelmed or like you are shutting down, it's not necessarily a weakness that's happening. It's actually your body saying, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe in this moment. Something doesn't feel right. So when we're displaying big emotions, we've got to ask ourselves, why don't we feel safe? Why don't we feel safe? And whether it is like weird dreams that are coming up, whether it is like, flashbacks when you're in meditation, whether it is, just like really weird feelings in your body and being like over triggered by things that wouldn't normally trigger you, all you've got to do is reconnect and ask, why don't I feel safe in this moment? And sometimes that's not easy. Like sometimes you have to go to somebody and get somebody to do this work with you. And whether that is, an energy healer or, somebody who's gone through this before, like you've got to think about actually how you connect with this stuff. So one of the really key things is finding ways to calm your system on a daily basis. And whether this is breath work, whether this is movement like yoga, whether this is meditation, running like high intensity exercise, literally you could be dancing around your kitchen, you could be walking barefoot on the grass in your garden, like you could be lying on the floor with your hand on your heart, you could be anchoring, like you could literally be doing anything. But healing genuinely doesn't have to be complicated. Like I think that this is something that so many people get wrong. They think like it has to be this massive complicated like routine of things. It actually gets to be really, really simple. It just needs to be consistent. So it needs to be something that you're doing on a daily basis. Okay, so let's talk about number three. And this is rebuilding self-trust. So healing happens when you start to keep promises to yourself. And this is not necessarily big things, but actually tiny things. So if you say, I'm going to do this, and then you actually follow through and you do it. So I'm going to sit with my cup of tea and mindfully drink it and not run around. I'm going to take the meal that I've created and sit at an actual table and eat it and not eat it standing in the kitchen while doing like 10 million other things. I'm going to take 20, like, a 2-minute break from my desk every hour just to have a little dance and walk around. And then you set a reminder and you take that break every single hour. It could be, I'm going to take 5 minutes of breathing time rather than just pushing through something that's really difficult. And then when you feel yourself getting stressed, you take that breathing time. So every time that you follow through, you're teaching your nervous system that I have got myself. And when you start to grow that self-trust, what happens is your body starts to trust you for bigger things. Your body starts to say, oh, okay, well, actually, if you're following through with all of these things, what is going to happen if I bring up something a little bit bigger? You're going to follow through and you're going to work with it and you're going to do something with it, which means
that you can start to release things that are being held, being stored. Because your nervous system and your body will never ever bring up something for you to deal with that you're not ready to. And this is why, like, so many people, when they're going through healing journeys, will say, like, oh yeah, I suddenly remembered like something that happened when I was a kid, or something that happened that wasn't great, and like I'd like blocked it out before. Yeah, because your body was like, you're not ready to deal with this, you're not ready to like process this. And now, because you're doing this work, you are. So this is a really important thing. Like, how do you build self-trust with yourself? How do you show up for yourself and say, I am going to look after myself, like through this whole process? So when I actually started doing this work, and I started to really like trust myself again, I noticed shifts that I can't really explain. So when I started to actually feel again, like, firstly, the first experience was big and messy. It was tears. It was old memories. Like, it was breakdown. It was, oh my gosh, actually, I need to deal with this. Like, I need to talk about this. I need to tell people that this happened. And there were some really big things that came up, like from childhood and from growing up and from how I felt. And I remember sitting down with my mom and my sister and like just like having these like conversations and being like, listen, these are some of the things that happened. Like, we don't need to do anything about it now. Like, we don't need to change anything, but I just need to give voice to it. And I just need to like have you here. Um, and it was really, really interesting. But what I started to notice actually is that as I made space for all of the darkness, for all of the like messy, for all of the emotion, what started to happen is the light started to come back as well. Because you can't dim one without dimming the other. Like, emotions aren't a thing where you can say, well, I'm only not going to feel these bad things and I'm just going to feel all the good. Like, when you start dimming off emotions, you dim the whole lot. So I started to realize that I was like more relaxed and I would laugh more and I would feel gratitude that like didn't feel forced. Like, it didn't feel like I had to sit down and write a list. Like, it would just like come. And I started to feel safe in my own skin again. Like, I started to feel myself again and like back to dancing around and going on adventures and like getting out into the world. Like, I've always been a experienced type of person and I'd shut myself down so much that I like wasn't experiencing life anymore. And like, I think that that was one of the big things that drove this like soul code creation. And what I saw when I ran soul code with women like over the past couple of years is it wasn't just something that worked for me. Like, this process actually worked for other people as well. This reconnection of your worth, of your emotions, of your boundaries, of who you are as as a woman, and how you then like get to show up like in that way. And I remember somebody saying to me who'd gone through the program, like, for the first time in years, I actually feel like myself again. Like, I actually feel like I can live again. And that was like such a huge shift for me to be like, oh yeah, actually, like, this is what people need. This isn't about like perfection or just like positive thinking or pushing through or like just showing up. Like, it's just presence. Like, it's just presence to be witnessed and to get to feel everything and know that like everything is okay. Like, know that everything is exactly as it should be. And I think like this is one of those really important things. Like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, like, yes, this is me, like, I can like relate to this and see myself in this process, and I really want some help, like moving through this. Like, I'd love to invite you to come and join us in January. Like, we're going to do a soul code alignment. It's a 9 week guided experience. And yeah, like, I just think that there's so much to connect through and like work through, but it doesn't have to be hard. Like, it doesn't have to be long. Like, in soul code we focus like weekly on a different topic. So like, we'll do divinity, like who you are and how you show up, and then we'll do like abundance, and we'll do boundaries, and we'll do emotions, and we'll do creativity, like tapping back into your creativity. And we go through like all of these different things, duality, like leaning into your shadow and like figuring out what these shadow things are for you. Like, there's so many things that we talk about and we cover, and all of these different topics are the things that I went through and I've taken clients through to get them to this like final level of what we call embodiment, and get you to like show up like in this version that feels whole and safe and alive and feels like the truest version of yourself. And the really good thing about soul code is you don't have to be at a particular point. You can just start where you are. So if you are really struggling, you can start soul code. If you are, a ways along on your journey, you can still do soul code. Like, I'm still reiterating these lessons and diving deeper and learning more and aligning more. And I think like this is the thing that is so cool. Like, you'll start to notice like your thoughts, you'll start to notice your emotions, you'll start to notice like reaction shifts of how you show up and what you accept and what let how you let other people treat you, not because you're trying harder or not because you're doing more, but actually just because you're finally aligning and like shifting, which I think is like, it's just such a different way of looking at life and how you show up and like what you do. And I mean, yeah, if you want to come and join Soul Code, absolutely. Like, it's £222. And you can send me a DM on Instagram or reach out. I can put the details in the show notes. Um, but I think like this is what I really want to just like leave you with today. Like, you don't need fixing. Like, you don't need to fix yourself, and you don't need like another mindset hack or another like, I don't know, just like another Instagram way of healing. Like, I don't think that that's the point. Like, I think people really need to just reconnect. Like, you need a safe space to reconnect with yourself. So, like, whether that is something that you create yourself, whether that is, therapy, whether that is energy healing, whether that is in soul code, like, I don't really care how you do it. I don't really care who you do it with, but like, you genuinely need that space to reconnect and to actually feel what you've been avoiding, and to trust yourself again, and to remember that you were never broken to begin with. Like, you were never broken. Parts of you have fragmented and we need to bring them back into alignment. That's all that's happened. And whether you're doing a soul code alignment or you're aligning in another way, absolutely like exactly what it should be. But the whole point is about actually realignment. And I think that that is really important. So, in this like dead week between Christmas and New Year's, if you're listening to this on Go Live Day, I would really call for you to sit down and ask yourself, like, where are you avoiding your feelings? Where are you, pushing down how you're actually feeling to please other people, to show up in a certain way, to fulfill a certain role? Like, where is this all showing up? And then actually start to do something about it. Like whether it is reading a book, whether it is, as I said, joining a soul code, going to therapy, like whatever you're doing, journaling on it, like however you want to get started. Like I really implore you, 2026 is gonna be a massive year for alignment. It's gonna be a massive year for having the things that you want, for showing up in the way that you want, for creating the life that you want, for birthing your purpose into the world. Like there are so many incredible things that are going to happen in 2026. And I want you to be part of that. I want you to be ready for that. So I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for choosing to be part of this podcast journey week in, week out, for showing up, for listening to these stories, for actually choosing yourself, like choosing yourself again and again and again and again. And either I will see you in Soul Code in the alignment, or I will see you in our next one-to-one solo Diary of Discovery episode. But we will have guests coming back from next week to kick off the new year. And I literally cannot wait to share another year of this incredible podcast with you. So thank you so much for being part of the journey. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening, to sharing, for, leaving reviews, for doing all of the things that get the podcast out to more and more people. I'm honestly so grateful. And I cannot wait to jump into 2026 with you guys.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of the Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Diary of Discovery.